What a busy few days we've had here in Barcelona in Spain for the 38th annual EANM Congress. And I can't believe, but EANM has been in existence for 40 years. The anniversary was on the 6th of September 2025. So we're going to reflect on the last 40 years or so of EANM, and we've been joined by three guests this morning, which I'd be delighted to actually introduce. Conrad-Amadeus Voltin, who was born in 1995. We've also got the president, current president of EANM, who's Paola Anna Erba. I'm not going to ask you when you were born. And we also have a former president of EANM from many, many years ago. We have Wolfram Knapp. So, Wolfram, can you describe or reflect on what were the turning points for nuclear medicine and for EANM over the past few decades?
Yes, from the point of science and patient care, the invention or introduction of a glucose analog labeled with a positron emitter in the middle of the 80s, that means at the beginning of EANM, was the most important step forward in the field since it existed. It existed since the end of 40s, as you know, with the reactor-produced iodine. So this was important for two reasons. As everybody knows, the brain and the heart consume a lot of glucose, but also rapidly growing tumors, they need glucose as fuel for their energy. Fluorine 18 labeled glucose analog was first used since 85, since the beginning of EANM, for brain research. But then it turned out to be very useful for tumor detection and detection of metastasis, thus for staging. And that was about in the middle of the 90s. So one can say since 94, 95, nuclear medicine became an important player for tumor diagnostics in the field.
Personally and professionally, when did you start to get really excited about being part of nuclear medicine? Because you sort of joined from a physics medical background, and you couldn't have known at that time where it was going to be heading.
It was directly after my medical studies that I was involved in nuclear medicine, though it did not exist at that time as a medical specialty. But I worked in a large nuclear research center, and there in an institute of medicine. And
a tiny one?
No, it was already a large institute, but mainly dedicated to research, and they developed methods for heart diagnostics. So my first interest was in heart diagnosis and heart physiology and pathophysiology.
Okay, I'll miss you for a moment, Paola, and I'd like to come to Amadeus. You've never done this before, so I want a lot of energy. In other words, I want you to rock me, Amadeus. Sorry, you've probably never heard anybody say that before, but I had to say it. Hearing what Wolfram was saying there about how he started, why did you decide to go into nuclear medicine when there are so many other disciplines that you could have chosen early in your career?
Well, that's a very, very good question. I mean, as you say, as a medical student, you see a lot of disciplines and you have to choose between all these. And you might be surprised, but already before starting studying in 2013, I had my first contact to nuclear medicine. We had some precursors that prepared us for physics, chemistry and biology, and we had a really great lecturer on nuclear medicine colleague. It was a physicist who told us about PET imaging. And Wolfram just mentioned PET imaging. I was so fascinated by the opportunities that PET imaging gives to patient care, so that I said I really can't refuse to get to know more about nuclear medicine.
In a way, when you were starting, it still wasn't a very glamorous or sexy discipline, and a lot of people gravitate more towards the better known disciplines, if you like. What are the conversations that you have with people of your age about why they went into nuclear medicine?
Well, everyone says that it's a rapidly evolving field. We really feel not only optimism but enthusiasm. We surely know that there's a lot to come. And I mean, what is better to have a field with future?
All right. So Paola, as president now, if you can talk us through, we've come from where we've come from. We have some very enthusiastic, extremely bright, well-educated next generation. As president, what are you focusing on in order to move EANM and nuclear medicine forward even more?
Thank you, Roy. As usual, challenging question for me. I said during the opening, you have a very big birthday in front, so you stop a second and you try to realize how to better celebrate. And so we really said honoring the past by celebrating the future and by securing our future. So the future generation, so the knowledge and the outreach to the future generation is one of the main point of action of this board. It has been started with Rudy. It was the one having the intuition of the INSPIRE program, for example. So medical students, but even earlier in the educational development of a person, so at schools. So
I remember we were having conversations many years ago, and I saw a poster that said celebrating ESMIT's 10th anniversary.
Yes, indeed.
And I remember having conversations before ESMIT had even started. I mean, how important has been the development of things like ESMIT and other educational programs to really galvanize people to become even more involved in nuclear medicine?
So for us, ESMIT is the mean where this Congress is living through all the year. So you really, through ESMIT, are able to gather people with all the novelty and how to translate them in clinical practice, which is at the end of the day our main point of action for better patient care. So ESMIT is our instrument to reach out the community. The webinar, they are easy. It's Friday lunchtime, you can get together with the department, have a quick lunch, and meanwhile you take a little bit of science. So that are exactly the view of developing ESMIT to this level.
So Amadeus, in terms of your ongoing education, how valuable are initiatives like that for your professional development and your career development?
They are absolutely very valuable. I mean, the young generation is a generation that is used to online media, and we really need these educational materials online that you can watch them when you really need them, that you are flexible in learning and getting trained. So it's not enough to only have on-site courses. That's why we are really very grateful that ESMIT has a great platform with nice videos, and that's really valuable.
And working towards far more interactivity and getting people, more involved.
I mean, ESMIT involves young people. You can ask questions to the experts there. We have the live sessions, as Paola just said. This is really, really valuable.
And I think it's fair to say, I've spoken to quite a number of people who lecture on the ESMIT courses, and they say, I learned so much as the lecturer. So that's been a fundamental shift, hasn't it?
Yeah, but this is the beauty of being a teacher is that the knowledge is going two-way. It's never just for the students. You learn as much as they are, and you prepare yourself better for the next turn or the next round.
So, Wolfram, you've seen the developments over many, many decades. What are your thoughts about the way that people are learning now? And I know that you're involved on the ethics committee, so you're still involved with the EANM, even though you retired, was it 15 years ago? What are your observations?
From the structural point of view, what EANM concerns, I think one of the most important steps was the foundation of a research platform in 2006. That's the EANM Research for Life, EARL. Because we had many important centers in Europe that performed studies, but we did not have a common platform with standards concerning quality and calibration of the detector systems. And this is of utmost importance when you conduct multi-center studies. And you need multi-center studies to prove that new modalities are better than alternatives. Yeah? So the progress in the field is partly due to the establishment of this EARL. Yeah?
I mean, it seems to me that in the past, everything was very siloed. There were lots of activity, but there was nothing that was joined up. So that sense has professionalized EANM and nuclear medicine. Would you agree, Paola?
I agree very much, and this is needed because, when you have a relatively small community, it's more easy to have silos and to have independent projects. But then now, youngers, it's transversal. Regulatory affairs is transversal, so it's really having implication in everything we are doing. So we needed to adapt a little the structure and also to increase communication and exchanging. So the reach out is not only outside to the outside world, but it is also internally, and get people together, get people to know more about what is going on.
And funnily enough, before we started today, Amadeus and I, we were chatting about the importance of growing a network, and it's a topic that has come up so many times in the past. What do you think that bringing together of people does for the network and the community for nuclear medicine?
I think that the reason why everybody is here, was here in the last days, is really the sense of being part of this community. So I was really impressed by listening to your view. FDG was the first game changer, then therapy got in, so now a second game changer was the not introduction, because we had from the beginning, but the improvement and the scale up of therapy. And altogether this means that you need to communicate more, to listen more. The first plenary was about how we are doing things around the world, so you really need to learn from other best practice and experience. So the really main part of being here is sharing.
Now, the interesting thing is it's the European Association of Nuclear Medicine. However, I've seen so many people here from Asia. Why is that significant?
It is significant because we are a global community. So this moment, whatever is happening in one part of the world is impacting through all the world, the other. And we really aim to provide patients the best care every place. It doesn't matter where they are located. So really the vision on the back of EARL, of the back of having people from all over the world. China is number one country in terms of abstracts submitted, and I don't know yet about attendees. We are waiting the closing lecture.
Well, I can tell you, without seeing the data, there are a lot of Chinese people.
I know. Yeah, you have a very privileged location here at the entrance. So you saw much more than what I did in the last day. But that is the point. Point is making access to every patient to the same standard and quality of care.
All right. I mean, we're running out of time now. If you want to add something, yeah.
Yes, Claire, I would like to add that we understand networking also, that to bridge generations, we have different programs focusing on bringing together young professionals with the older scholars, or the more experienced scholars, to say it more than this way. And these are very important initiatives, because younger professionals often said, well, I'm afraid to approach a senior scholar and to learn from him. And the new EANM programs try to bring together all the generations. So
it's a very enlightened approach.
We are a large family, and that's how we should understand ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we should also ask the question, it's absolutely correct what Paola said, that it's a worldwide community, but why is it the European Association which became the world leader in nuclear medicine?
Because of past presidents and their vision.
No, the actual president. No.
But
no, I think an important factor is that in Europe, shortly after EANM was founded, the Union of European Medical Specialists recognized nuclear medicine as an own independent specialty. And this gave the starting point for strong departments in the faculties for nuclear medicine, supported by the fact that with FDG, nuclear medicine became an important player in oncology, because the large clinical studies on new therapeutic tools in chemotherapy, they needed positron emission tomography as reference standard. And so nuclear medicine became very interesting for the faculties at the universities. And this is a bit different in the United States, without criticism of the situation there.
Different systems.
Different systems. But I think that was one of the major points why nuclear medicine became so strong in Europe. And there are other points to mention, but I don't want to bore you with details. But the organizational improvements that have been done by EANM play a great part in this.
And I think as an outsider, it's also my observation that nuclear medicine has taken a while to be taken far more seriously by many different disciplines, and you mentioned regulatory earlier on. So you have the EU taking nuclear medicine much more seriously because they've been communicated with, they understand it better now. But just to bring this to a close, can I just imagine for a second, it's the 40th anniversary of EANM. I want you to imagine it's the 50th anniversary of EANM. How would you describe the developments of EANM between the 40th and the 50th in your ideal world?
In my ideal world, in 10 years, we would be able to treat a whole variety of frequent cancers like breast cancer, like gastrointestinal cancer, lung cancer, etc., with the principle of theranostics, the principle that we use now, for instance, for prostate cancer, but using fundamental principles in oncology that apply to the whole variety of cancers. So that would benefit the individual patients, and it would benefit our field.
Amadeus, do you feel it is moving in that direction? How would you want your career and the profession to have evolved in 10 years' time?
Actually, we can speak with one voice. We want to help more patients, we want to improve the lives of more patients than we do so far, and I'm very, very sure that we will do in 10 years. We will be responsible for very important diseases. We are already now but the number will surely increase. And regarding the development of EANM, I hope that we will grow as a family, that we will be an even larger family in the future, with young professionals also being involved in the society.
Get more young professionals involved. So
Yes.
if you're a young professional and you're not involved, please, the organization needs you as volunteers, and you will benefit in ways you can't begin to imagine.
So don't be afraid. You can make a difference also as a young professional. Be involved and reach out to the EANM. We will need you.
Okay. Paola, final word. As president of EANM, I want you to predict in 10 years' time, how would you describe EANM and the nuclear medicine discipline?
So I will start with the second. In 10 years, every hospital will have a cyclotron because we will have so many radiopharmaceuticals that is impossible to do differently. Multi-professional live community. We need physicists, nurses, technologists. We need chemists and radiopharmacists and clinicians at our side for better patient care. That is where we will be. Clinic center for disease rather than all in. And that will be a hyper-specialization, multi-professional organization. That is where we EANM will like to stay. And I think the practice will need it because patients would benefit from this approach.
All right. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have a very safe and uneventful journey home, and that you've got an enormous amount out of attending this year's Congress. Thank you very much indeed to all of you. That's all for now. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Congress, and I'll see you some other time perhaps.